Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Welcome to today's reading from Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita. We're reading from the Adi Lila chapter 5. We're continuing from the verse 41 purport where we left last time. Mukam karoti vachalam pangum langhaite girim yat kripatam ham vande Shri Gurum Dinatarinam Paramananda Madhavam Shri Chaitanya Ishwaram Hari Om Tat Sat. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that the Lord, being equally disposed toward every living being, has no enemies and no friends, but that he has special affection for a devotee who always thinks of him in love. Therefore, neutrality and partiality are both among the transcendental qualities of the Lord, and they are properly adjusted by his inconceivable energy. The Lord is Parabrahman, or the source of the impersonal Brahma, which is his all-pervading feature of neutrality. In his personal feature, however, as the owner of all transcendental opulences, the Lord displays his partiality by taking the side of his devotees. Partiality, neutrality, and all such qualities are present in God. Otherwise, they could not be experienced in the creation. Since he is the total existence, all things are properly adjusted in the absolute. In the relative world, such qualities are displayed in a perverted manner, and therefore we experience non-duality as a perverted reflection. Because there is no logic to explain how things happen in the realm of spirit, the Lord is sometimes described as being beyond the range of experience. But if we simply accept the Lord's inconceivability, we can then adjust all things in him. Non-devotees cannot understand the Lord's inconceivable energy, and consequently, for them it is said that he is beyond the range of conceivable expression. The author of the Brahma Sutras accepts this fact and says, Shrutes tu shabda moolatvat. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, being inconceivable to an ordinary man, can be understood only through the evidence of the Vedic injunctions. The Skanda Puran confirms Achintya Khalu Ye Bhava Natams Tarkena Yojayet. Matters inconceivable to a common man should not be a subject for argument. We find very wonderful qualities even in such material things such as jewels and drugs. Indeed, their qualities often appear inconceivable. Therefore, we do not attribute inconceivable potencies to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. We cannot establish its supremacy. It is because of these inconceivable potencies that the glories of the Lord have always been accepted as difficult to understand. Ignorance and jugglery of words are very common in human society, but they do not help one understand the inconceivable energies of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. If we accept such ignorance and word jugglery, we cannot accept the Supreme Lord's perfection in 6 opulences. For example, one of the opulences of the Supreme Lord is complete knowledge. Therefore, how could ignorance be conceivable in him? Vedic instructions and sensible arguments establish that the Lord's maintaining the cosmic manifestation and simultaneously being indifferent to the activities of its maintenance cannot be contradictory because of his inconceivable energies. To a person who is always absorbed in the thought of snakes, a rope always appears to be a snake. And similarly, to a person bewildered by the material qualities and devoid of knowledge of the Absolute, the Supreme Personality of Godhead appears according to the diverse bewildered conclusions. Someone might argue that the Absolute would be affected by duality if he were both all cognizance, Brahman, and the Personality of Godhead with 6 opulences in full Bhagwan, which is Bhagwan. To refute such an argument, the aphorism Swarupa Dvayam Ikshyate declares that in spite of appearances, there is no glance of duality in the Absolute, for he is but one in diverse manifestations. Understanding that the Absolute displays varied pastimes by the influence of his energies at once removes the apparent incongruity of his inconceivably opposite energies. Srimad Bhagavatam 3.4.16 gives the following description of the inconceivable potency of the Lord. Karmani anihasya bhavo abhavasya te durga shrayo thari bhayat palayanam kalatmano yat pramada vitashrayah swatman rateh khidyati dhir vidam iha. Although the Supreme Personality of Godhead has nothing to do, he nevertheless acts. Although he is always unborn, he nevertheless takes birth. Although he is time, fearful to everyone, he flees Mathura in fear of his enemy to take shelter in a fort, and although he is self-sufficient, he marries 16,000 women. These pastimes seem like bewildering contradictions even to the most intelligent. Had these activities of the Lord not been a reality, sages would not have been puzzled by them. Therefore, such activities should never be considered imaginary. Whenever the Lord desires, his inconceivable energy, Yogmaya, serves him in creating and performing such pastimes. The scriptures known as the Pancharatra Shastras are recognized Vedic scriptures that have been accepted by the great acharyas. These scriptures are not products of the modes of passion and ignorance. Learned scholars and brahmanas therefore always refer to them as Satvata Samhitas. The original speaker of these scriptures is Narayan, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is especially mentioned in the Moksha Dharma 349.68, which is part of the Shanti Param of Mahabharata. Liberated sages like Narad and Vyasa, who are free from 4 defects of conditioned souls, are the propagators of these scriptures. Sri Narad Muni is the original speaker of the Pancharatra Shastra. Srimad Bhagavatam is also considered a Satvata Samhita. Indeed, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu declared Srimad Bhagavatam Puranam Amalam. Srimad Bhagavatam is a spotless Puran. Malicious editors and scholars who attempt to misrepresent the Pancharatra Shastras to refute their regulations are most abominable. In the modern age, such malicious scholars have been commented misleadingly upon the Bhagavad Gita, which was spoken by Krsna to prove that there is no Krishna. How the Mayavadis have misrepresented the Pancharatrika Vidhi will be shown below. First one is, in commenting on Vedanta Sutra 2.2.42, Sripad Shankaracharya has claimed that Shankarshan is a jiva, an ordinary living entity, but there is no evidence in Vedic scripture that devotees of the Lord have ever said that Sankarshan is an ordinary living entity. He is an infallible plenary expansion of the Supreme Personality of Godhead in the Vishnu category, and he is beyond the creation of material nature. He is the original source of the living entities. The Upanishads declare Nityo Nityanam Chaitanash Chaitana Nam. He is the supreme living entity among all the living entities. Therefore, he is Vibhu Chaitanya, the greatest. He is greatly the cause of the cosmic manifestation and the infinitesimal living beings. He is the infinite living entity, and ordinary living entities are infinitesimal. Therefore, he is never to be considered an ordinary living being, for that would be against the conclusion of the authorized scriptures. The living entities are also beyond the limitations of birth and death. This is the version of the Vedas, and it is accepted by those who follow scriptural injunctions and who have actually descended in the disciplic succession. Second one In answer to the Shankaracharya's commentary on Vedanta Sutra 2.2.43, it must be said that the original Vishnu of all the Vishnu categories, which are distributed in several ways, is Mula Sankarshan. Mool means the original. Sankarshan is also Vishnu, but from him all the other Vishnus expand. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.46, wherein it is said that just as a flame transferred from another flame acts like the original, so the Vishnus who emanate from Mula Sankarshan are as good as the original Vishnu. One should worship that Supreme Personality of Godhead, Govinda, who thus expands himself. Third, in reply to the commentary of Shankaracharya on the 44th aphorism, it may be said that no pure devotee strictly following the principles of Pancharatra will ever accept the statement that all the expansions of Vishnu are different identities, for this idea is completely false. Even Sripad Shankaracharya, in his commentary on the 42nd aphorism, has accepted that the personality of Godhead can automatically expand himself variously. Therefore, his commentary on the 42nd aphorism and his commentary on the 44th aphorism are contradictory. It is a defect of Mayavad commentaries that they make one statement in one place and a contradictory statement in another place as a tactic to refute the Bhagavad school. Thus, Mayavadi commentators do not even follow regulative principles. It should be noted that Bhagavad school accepts the quadruple forms of Narayan, but that does not mean that it accepts many gods. Devotees know perfectly well that absolute truth, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, is one without a second. They are never pantheists, worshippers of many gods, for this is against the injunctions of the Vedas. Devotees completely believe with strong faith that Narayan is transcendental and has inconceivable proprietorship of various transcendental potencies. We therefore recommend that scholars consult the Laghu Bhagavatamrita of Srila Rupa Goswami, where these ideas are explicitly stated. Sripad Shankaracharya has tried to prove that Vasudev Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha expand through cause and effect. He has compared them with earth and earthen pots. That is completely ignorant, however, for there is no such thing as cause and effect in their expansions. Nanyad yat Sat Asat Param, the Kurma Puran also confirms Deha Dehi Vibhedo Ayam Neshware Vidyate Kvachit. There is no difference between body and soul in the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Cause and effect are material. For example, it is seen that a father's body is the cause of a son's body, but the soul is neither cause nor effect. On the spiritual platform, there are none of the differences we find in cause and effect. Since all the forms of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are spiritually supreme, they are equally controllers of material nature, standing on the fourth dimension. They are predominating figures on the transcendental platform. There is no trace of material contamination in their expansions. Because material laws cannot influence them, there is no such rule as cause and effect outside of the material world. Therefore, the understanding of cause and effect cannot approach the full transcendental complete expansions of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Vedic literature proves this. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnam Udachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnam Eva Vashishyate. The personality of Godhead is perfect and complete, and because He is completely perfect, all emanations from Him, such as the phenomenal world, are perfectly equipped as complete wholes. Whatever is produced of the complete whole is also complete by itself, because He is the complete whole. Even though so many complete units emanate from Him, He remains the complete balance. This is from Brihad Aranyaka Upanishad 5.1. It is most apparent that non-devotees violate the rules and regulations of devotional service to equate the whole cosmic manifestation, which is the external feature of Vishnu, with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the controller of Maya, or with his quadruple expansions. Equating Maya with Spirit or Maya with the Lord is a sign of atheism. The cosmic creation which manifests life in forms from Brahma to the ant is the external feature of the Supreme Lord. It comprises 1/4 of the Lord's energy. as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, ekam shena sthito jagat. The cosmic manifestation of the illusory energy is material nature, and everything within material nature is made of matter. Therefore, one should not try to compare the expansions of material nature to the Chaturvyu, the quadruple expansions of the personality of Godhead, but unfortunately the Mayavadi school unreasonably attempts to do this. Fourth, to answer Shankaracharya's commentary on Vedanta Sutra 2.2.45, the substance of the transcendental qualities and their spiritual nature, Bhagavatamrita, Purva 5, according to them, all qualities are like temporary flickering mirages, but this is not acceptable. Since the Supreme Personality of Godhead is absolute, his qualities are not different from him. His form, name, qualities, and everything else pertaining to him are as spiritual as he is. Every qualitative expansion of the absolute personality of Godhead is identical with him. Since the absolute truth, the personality of Godhead, is the reservoir of all pleasure, all the transcendental qualities that expand from him are also reservoirs of pleasure. This is confirmed in the scripture known as Brahma Tarak, which states that the Supreme Lord Hari is qualified by himself, and therefore Vishnu and his pure devotees and their transcendental qualities cannot be different from their persons. In the Vishnu Puran, Lord Vishnu has worshipped in the following words: "Let the Supreme Personality of Godhead be merciful toward us. His existence is never infected by material qualities." In the same Vishnu Puran, it is also said that all the qualities attributed to the Supreme Lord, such as knowledge, opulence, beauty, strength, and influence, are known to be non-different from him. This is also confirmed in the Padma Puran, which explains that whenever the Supreme Lord is described as having no qualities, this should be understood to indicate that he is devoid of material qualities. In the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam 1.16.29, it is said, "O Dharma protector of religious principles, all noble and sublime qualities are eternally manifested in the person of Krishna, and devotees and transcendentalists who aspire to become faithful also desire to possess such transcendental qualities. It is therefore to be understood that Lord Krishna, the transcendental form of absolute bliss, is the fountainhead of all pleasurable transcendental qualities and inconceivable potencies." In this connection, we may recommend references to Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd Canto, Chapter 26, verses 21, 25, 27, and 28. Sripad Ramanujacharya also refuted the arguments of Shankara in his own commentary on the Vedanta Sutra, which is known as Sri Bhashya. Sripad Shankaracharya has tried to equate the Pancharatras with philosophy of the atheist Kapila, and thus he has tried to prove that Pancharatras contradict the Vedic injunctions. The Pancharatras state that the personality of Jiva called Sankarshan has emerged from Vasudev, the supreme cause of all causes, that Pradyumna, the mind, has come from Sankarshan, and that Aniruddha has come from Pradyumna. But one cannot say that the living entity or the Jiva takes birth or is created, for such a statement is against the injunction of the Vedas. As stated in the Katha Upanishad 2.18, living entities as individual spiritual souls can have neither birth nor death. All Vedic literature declares that the living entities are eternal. Therefore, when it is said that Sankarshan is Jiva, this indicates that he is the predominating deity of the living entities. Similarly, Pradyumna is the predominating deity of the mind, and Aniruddha is the predominating deity of the ego. Repeat that Sankarshan is Jiva. This indicates that he is the predominating deity of the living entities. Similarly, Pradyumna is the predominating deity of the mind, and Aniruddha is the predominating deity of the ego. It has been said that Pradyumna, the mind, was produced from Sankarshan. But if Sankarshan were a living entity, this could not be accepted, because a living entity cannot be cause of the mind. But Vedic injunctions state that everything, including life, mind, and the senses, come from the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is impossible for the mind to be produced by a living entity, for the Vedas state that everything comes from the Absolute Truth, the Supreme Lord. Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha have all the potent features of the Absolute Personality of Godhead according to the revealed scriptures, which contain undeniable facts that no one can refute. Therefore, these members of the quadruple manifestation are never to be considered ordinary living beings. Each of them is a plenary expansion of the Absolute Godhead, and thus each is identical with the Supreme Lord in knowledge, opulence, energy, influence, prowess, and potencies. The evidence of the Pancharatras cannot be neglected. Only untrained persons who have not genuinely studied the Pancharatras think that the Pancharatras contradict the Shrutis regarding the birth or beginning of the living entity. In this connection, we must accept the verdict of Srimad Bhagavatam, which says, the Absolute Personality of Godhead, who is known as Vasudeva and who is very affectionate towards his surrendered devotees, expands himself in the quadruple forms who are subordinate to him and at the same time identical with him in all respects. The Bhaskara Samhita states the scriptures that recommend the Brahmanas worship the quadruple form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead are called the Agamas, the authorized Vedic literatures. In all Vaishnava literature, it is said that worshipping these quadruple forms is as good as worshipping the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva, who in his different expansions, complete in 6 opulences, can accept offerings from his devotees of the results of their prescribed duties. Worshipping the expansions for pastimes such as Nrisimha, Rama, Shesha and Kurma promotes one to the worship of the Sankarshan quadruple. From that position, one is raised to the platform of worshipping Vasudeva, the Supreme Brahman. In the Bhaskara Samhita, it is said, if one fully worships according to the regulative principles, one can attain the Supreme Personality of Godhead Vasudeva. It is to be accepted that Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha are as good as Lord Vasudeva, for they all have inconceivable power and can accept transcendental forms like Vasudeva. Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha are never born, but they can manifest themselves in various incarnations before the eyes of pure devotees. This is the conclusion of all the Vedic literature, that the Lord can manifest himself before his devotees by his inconceivable power is not against the teachings of the Pancharatras. Since Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha are respectively the predominating deities of all living entities, the total mind and the total ego, and the designation of Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha as Jiva, mind and ego is never contradictory to the statements of the scriptures. These terms identify these deities just as the terms sky and light sometimes identify the Absolute Brahman. The scriptures completely deny the birth or production of the living entity. In the Param Samhita, it is described that the material nature which is used for others' purposes is factually inert and always subject to transformation. The field of the material nature is the arena of the activities of fruitive actors, and since the material field is externally related with the Supreme Personality of Godhead, it is also eternal. In every Samhita, the Jiva, the living entity, has been accepted as eternal, and in the Pancharatras, the birth of the Jiva is completely denied. Anything that is produced must be annihilated. Therefore, if we accept the birth of a living entity, we also have to accept his annihilation. But since the Vedic literatures say that the living entity is eternal, one should not think the living being to be produced at a certain time. In the beginning of the Param Samhita, it is definitely stated that the face of material nature is constantly changeable. Therefore, beginning, annihilation and all such terms are applicable only in the material nature. Considering all these points, one should understand that Shankaracharya's statement that Sankarshan is born as Jiva is completely against the Vedic statements. His assertions are completely refuted by the above arguments. In this connection, the commentary of Sridhara Swami on Srimad Bhagavatam 3.1.34 is very helpful for a detailed refutation of Shankaracharya's arguments. Attempting to prove Sankarshan an ordinary living being, one may refer to Srimad Sudarshanacharya's commentary on the Sri Bhashya, which is known as Shruta Parikashika. In the original quadruple forms Krishna, Baldev, Pradyumna and Aniruddha expand into another quadruple, which is present in the Vaikuntha planets of the spiritual sky. Therefore, the quadruple forms in the spiritual sky are the second manifestation of the original quadruple in Dwarka. As explained above, Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna and Aniruddha are all changeless, transcendental plenary expansions of the Supreme Lord who have no relation to the material modes. The Sankarshan form in the second quadruple is not only a representation of Balaram but also the original cause of the causal ocean where Karanodakshaya Vishnu lies asleep. Breathing out the seeds of innumerable universes. In the spiritual sky, there is a spiritual creative energy technically called Shuddha Sattva, which is pure spiritual energy that sustains all the Vaikuntha planets with the full opulences of knowledge, wealth, prowess, etc. All these actions of Shuddha Sattva display the potencies of Mahasankarshan, who is the ultimate reservoir of all individual living entities who are suffering in the material world. When the cosmic creation is annihilated, the living entities who are indestructible by nature rest in the body of Mahasankarshan. Sankarshan is therefore sometimes called the total jiva. As spiritual sparks, the living entities have the tendency to be inactive in the association of the material energy, just as the sparks of the fire have the tendency to be extinguished as soon as they leave the fire. The spiritual nature of the living being can be rekindled, however, in association with the Supreme Being. Because of the living being can appear either in matter or in spirit, the jiva is called the marginal potency. Sankarshan is the origin of Karan Vishnu, which is the original form who creates the universes, and that Sankarshan is but a plenary expansion of Sri Nityananda Rama. I'll repeat, Sankarshan is the original form of Karan Vishnu, who is the original form who creates the universes, and that Sankarshan is but a plenary expansion of Sri Nityananda Rama. So we'll continue from verse 42 next time. Thank you for joining. Hariam Tat Sat. Hare Krishna.